Your brother's family needs the space. Pack your things and move out by the end of the month. My mother said it like she was telling me to take out the trash, like evicting me from the house I'd lived in for 8 years was just another item on her to-do list. Behind her, my brother Marcus was already walking through rooms with his pregnant wife, pointing at walls, discussing nursery colors. They'd measured my bedroom while I was at work. They'd planned my displacement without a single conversation. But what my mother didn't know, what none of them knew, was that my father had seen this moment coming years ago. And he'd made sure I'd never be homeless in my own house. Before I tell you what was on that deed, let me ask you something. Where are you watching from right now? And when you hear how my mother reacted to the truth, tell me honestly, have you ever watched someone's entitlement shatter in real time? My name is Celeste. I'm 34 years old, and I've spent my entire life being overlooked by a mother who only had eyes for her son. Let me take you back to the beginning. I grew up in a modest split-level house in suburban New Jersey, the kind of neighborhood where everyone knew each other and families stayed for generations. My parents bought the house the year I was born, and it was where I took my first steps, lost my first tooth, cried over my first heartbreak. It was home in every sense of the word. My brother Marcus came along 2 years after me. From the moment he arrived, I understood that the rules were different for us. Marcus was the son my mother had prayed for, the heir to continue the family name, the golden child who could do no wrong. I was the placeholder who'd arrived first. Growing up, the favoritism was constant but subtle enough that pointing it out made me look petty. Marcus got new clothes while I got hand-me-downs from cousins. Marcus got a car at 16 while I took the bus. Marcus got his college paid for while I was told to figure it out, because girls don't need degrees like boys do. My mother delivered that line without irony. In her world, my role was to get married and have children, not to pursue education or career. That I wanted more was a personal failing she reminded me of regularly. My father was different. Dad was a quiet man who worked as an electrician, union wages, steady benefits, nothing flashy. He didn't talk much about feelings, but he showed love through actions. He taught me to change a tire when I was 12. He co-signed my student loans when my mother refused. He'd slip me money for textbooks and tell me not to mention it at home. Your mother loves you, he'd say when I complained about the disparity. She just doesn't know how to show it equally. That's her weakness, not yours. I accepted that explanation for years. I stopped expecting fairness and learned to create my own opportunities. I worked through college, graduated with honors, and built a career in accounting that made me financially independent by 25. Meanwhile, Marcus floundered. He dropped out of the college our parents paid for. He bounced between jobs, never lasting more than a year. He moved back home repeatedly, each time with a new girlfriend and a new excuse. My mother welcomed him with open arms every single time. Then Dad got sick. Lung cancer, stage 3 by the time they found it. He'd been a smoker in his youth, and the damage had been silently spreading for years. The prognosis was 18 months, maybe less. I moved home immediately. Not back into my childhood bedroom, but into the house, to help with his care. My mother was overwhelmed by his illness, consumed by self-pity about what she'd do without him. She couldn't handle the medication schedules, the doctor appointments, the physical demands of caring for a dying man. So I did it. For 18 months, I worked remotely, cared for my father, managed his medical team, and held his hand through the worst of it. I watched him shrink from the strong man who taught me to be tough into a fragile shell who needed help walking to the bathroom. Marcus visited twice during those 18 months. He sent cards. About 6 months before Dad passed, he asked to speak with me alone. My mother was out at one of her church meetings, and the house was quiet. "I need you to do something for me," he said, his voice thin but clear. "I need you to call Franklin." Franklin Marsh was Dad's attorney, a friend from his union days who'd handled our family's legal matters for decades. "What for, Dad?" "I'm changing the deed on the house. Putting it in your name." I stared at him. "What? Why?" "Because I know what happens when I'm gone." His eyes were sad but determined. "Your mother will give everything to Marcus. She'll sell this house to fund his next disaster. She'll leave you with nothing because she's convinced herself that you don't need anything." He gripped my hand with surprising strength. "But you do need something. You need security. You've earned it. And I'm going to make sure you get it." "Dad, I can't take the house. Mom lives here. Your mother can live here as long as she wants. I'm not kicking her out. I'm just making sure the house goes to someone who'll protect it. Someone who won't sell it to bail Marcus out of his next failure." He smiled weakly. "You're that person, Celeste. You've always been that person." Franklin came 3 days later. The paperwork was straightforward. Dad signed the house over to me with a provision that my mother had lifetime residency rights. She could live there until she died or chose to leave. But she couldn't sell it. She couldn't mortgage it. She couldn't give it to anyone. The house was mine. "Don't tell your mother," Dad said after Franklin left. "She won't understand. She'll fight it." Let her believe the house is hers until she tries to do something with it. Then you'll have the protection you need. Dad died 4 months later. The funeral was packed with people who loved him, people whose homes he'd wired and whose problems he'd solved with quiet competence. My mother cried beautifully, accepting condolences like a grieving widow should. Marcus showed up in a borrowed suit and disappeared immediately after to process his grief, which apparently required a weekend in Atlantic City. I stayed. I cleaned out Dad's things. I organized the paperwork. I kept the house running while my mother retreated into her bedroom for weeks of mourning. And then I just kept living there. It made sense at first. I'd given up my apartment to care for Dad, and there was plenty of space. My mother seemed to appreciate having someone around. I paid the property taxes, handled the maintenance, updated the ancient heating system with my own money. Over 8 years, I poured thousands of dollars into improvements because it was my house, even if nobody else knew it yet. My mother never questioned my presence. I think she assumed I was there to serve her, the way I'd always served the family's needs. The dutiful daughter, always available, always reliable, always overlooked. Then Marcus got married. His wife, Tiffany, was 26, pretty, and very pregnant when they announced the wedding. They'd been dating for 4 months. Mom was thrilled, already planning her life as a grandmother, already talking about how wonderful it would be to have a baby in the house. I didn't realize she meant this house until she walked into my bedroom on a Saturday morning and told me to pack. Marcus and Tiffany need somewhere to live, she explained, like it was obvious. This house has 3 bedrooms. They'll take the master suite, the baby will have the nursery, and I'll keep my room. You'll need to find somewhere else. Somewhere else, I repeated slowly. You have a good job. You can afford an apartment. She was already looking past me, mentally redecorating. Tiffany wants to paint this room yellow. For the nursery. It gets the best morning light. Mom, this is my house. She laughed. Actually laughed, like I'd told a joke. Don't be ridiculous, Celeste. This is the family home. Your father and I bought it before you were born. And Dad signed it over to me 8 years ago. Before he died. The laughter stopped. What? I walked to my closet and pulled out the fireproof lockbox I'd kept hidden for 8 years. Inside was the deed, the transfer documents, Franklin's notarized certification. I handed the deed to my mother and watched her face as she read the name of the owner. Celeste Marie Donovan. This can't be right. Her voice was barely a whisper. Henry would never, he wouldn't do this without telling me. He did it because he knew exactly what you'd do when he was gone. He knew you'd give everything to Marcus. He knew you'd leave me with nothing. I kept my voice steady, even though my heart was pounding. So he made sure I had something. Something you couldn't take away. This is fraud. You manipulated a dying man. Dad was of sound mind. Franklin has documentation. There were witnesses. The transfer was completely legal. I took the deed back from her shaking hands. I didn't tell you because Dad asked me not to. He wanted you to have peace in your final years together. But he also wanted me protected from your favoritism. Favoritism? My mother's voice rose. I've never favored. You paid for Marcus's college and told me girls don't need degrees. You gave him a car and made me take the bus. You bailed him out of every failure while telling me to figure things out on my own. I was shaking now, 34 years of accumulated hurt finally spilling over. Dad saw all of it. He kept quiet because he loved you. But he didn't let it determine my future. The bedroom door burst open. Marcus stood there, Tiffany behind him, both of them having clearly heard enough. What's going on? Marcus demanded. Mom, why are you crying? Your sister, Mom could barely get the words out. Your father gave her the house. She owns it. All of it. Marcus stared at me. That's impossible. Dad would never cut us out. He didn't cut you out. He gave Mom lifetime residency. She can live here forever. I looked at my brother, the golden child, the favored son, and felt nothing but exhaustion. But the house is mine. And I decide who else lives here. So you're kicking us out? Tiffany spoke for the first time, her hand on her pregnant belly. I'm 6 months pregnant and you're kicking us out? I'm not kicking anyone out. I'm telling you that you can't kick me out. There's a difference. I closed the lockbox. You want to live here, Marcus? Fine. We can discuss it like adults. But you don't get to walk in and claim rooms like I don't exist. You don't get to paint my bedroom yellow without asking. And you definitely don't get to send me packing because Mom decided your needs matter more than mine. Dad would be ashamed of you, Mom hissed. Dad did this. This was his choice. His plan. His protection for the daughter you've overlooked for 34 years. I walked to the door. I loved him enough to care for him when he was dying. I held his hand when he took his last breath. And he loved me enough to make sure I'd never be homeless because of your choices. I left them standing in my bedroom and went for a long walk around the neighborhood. The neighborhood I'd grown up in, where I'd ridden my bike and walked to school and built a lifetime of memories. My neighborhood now. When I came back, Marcus and Tiffany were gone. My mother was sitting in the living room, staring at nothing. I called Franklin, she said quietly. He confirmed everything. Henry really did this. I know. I don't understand why. I sat down across from her. Because he watched you for 40 years, Mom. He loved you, but he saw how you treated me differently. He saw me earn my way through life while Marcus was handed everything. And he wanted to balance the scales. Not punish you. Not hurt Marcus. Just give me one thing that couldn't be taken away. I never meant to. She trailed off. I know you didn't mean to. That almost makes it worse. I took a breath. You can live here as long as you want. That's what Dad wanted, and I'll honor it. But Marcus doesn't get to move in and push me out. If he wants to live here, he pays rent. He contributes. He treats this house, and me, with respect. He can't afford rent. They barely have anything. Then he figures it out. The way I've been figuring things out my whole life. I stood up. I'm sorry this isn't what you expected, Mom. But Dad saw something you didn't. He saw me. And he made sure someone in this family finally treated me like I mattered. That was 6 months ago. Marcus and Tiffany got an apartment across town. It's small, but it's theirs. Mom was angry for a while, but she's adjusted. We've reached a fragile peace, living together in the house that's legally mine. She started asking about my work, my friends, my life. Small questions, awkward conversations, but more than she's shown interest in for 30 years. I think Dad's choice finally made her see what she'd been doing. Or maybe she's just afraid I'll kick her out. Either way, I'm not going anywhere. Marcus had a baby girl last month. Healthy, beautiful, named after Tiffany's grandmother. Mom visits them regularly. I've been once, with a gift and a brief congratulation. We're not close, and I don't think we ever will be. But I've made peace with that. Dad's picture sits on my nightstand. Every night before I sleep, I thank him. Not for the house, though that's life-changing. But for seeing me. For planning for me. For being the one person in my family who understood that love isn't just words, it's protection. If you're watching this and you've ever been the overlooked child, the one who was expected to give while others took, I want you to know something. Sometimes the people who love you can't save you publicly. Sometimes they have to work quietly, behind the scenes, building protections you won't discover until you need them. Look for those people. Cherish them. And when you find out what they've done for you, honor their memory by standing your ground. Because you deserve to take up space. You deserve security. And you deserve a home that nobody can take from you. If this story spoke to you, drop a comment below. And make sure to subscribe so you don't miss what happens next.